Hello, David Snowpeck from Snowpeck Games, and this is my final devlog about the game that I made for the Godot Wild Jam number 24 and Postmortem. So first, I just want to talk really quickly about the last things that I did for the game on Saturday, and then I'm going to give my Postmortem, which is just basically my thoughts and feelings about the game and the game jam as a whole. So, first, I did a little bit of work on Saturday. Actually implementing a story. It was not the story I originally planned to implement. My original plan was that the girls would have 2 games that they could play as kind of an intro thing, and then there would be a quest to find Ava's special bunny stuffed animal, and that the quest would involve a secret passage that went into some other map. Because one of the wild cards was a secret passage, and I thought that would be really cool. And little kids love that kind of stuff, that there's some place they haven't looked in the house, and oh, they never noticed this before, but then it opens up and a whole other world is in there. And but I just kind of hit like a brick wall on Saturday. I just ran out of energy and motivation for this project, and just kind of said, okay, what is the simplest thing that I could get done that could maybe make this game submittable? And let me get that done on Saturday. And then on Sunday, maybe I'll rally myself before the submission deadline and add some more things. And in the end, I did not do that. I got to the end of the day on Saturday, and I just said, I just got to submit this because I just have to be done, because I just have to move on. Which, I'm sorry to folks who are watching this and hoping that maybe I was going to pull something amazing out at the end. I didn't. So for the postmortem, I'd like to give kind of pros and cons about the project. Starting with the pros, I finally have a game with my daughters in it, which is something I've been trying to pull off for a while. With a couple of different attempts. I made kind of like a little action RPG type thing with them in it. I made like a kind of platformy type thing with them in it. And I don't know, none of those ideas really came together. And I think this is a sound sort of package to make little stories involving them that they'll get a kick out of, and that we can play together, and they can suggest things and make maps with me. And it's just a fun little project that we can keep doing together. And I'm excited about that. Also, I really love JRPGs. Definitely back in the day, it was like my favorite genre of game. I played way too much of the original Final Fantasy on the NES, as well as Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and all these really fundamental games for me. And I've never made one other than, I guess, fooling around in RPG Maker a little bit. So this could form the basis of a JRPG that I make later, and I'm excited about that possibility, that I could take this code base and extend it to have a battle system and do some more complete interesting things. The architecture, of course, in this game, as any game jam game, is kind of a disaster. I have an idea of how I really want it to be. So maybe over the next bunch of weeks, I'll spend some time rearranging the code so that it would be a sounder basis to do something else with. And certainly if I'm going to keep making games with the girls, I want to do that anyway. So those are the positives. In the end, I'm glad that I did this project. I'm glad that I pushed myself to make something. But digging into the cons now, I'm just really burnt out. I think doing 3 game jams in 3 months is too many. And that what I should have done is just not done this jam, just to be kinder to myself as a person. The 2 projects that I was focused on before this past week, which was making my Godot and Git tutorials and the procedural generation stuff for Monster Evolution, I could have stuck with those and maybe done them at kind of a slower pace and, not totally stress myself out. I really felt towards the end of this project, or maybe not even towards the end, towards the middle of it, that I had just created for myself a second really stressful job that I was doing in the nights, and then of course not sleeping very much. And if I had done this project outside of the context of a jam, I would have worked on it in the beginning, which was legitimately really fun to try and put together the mechanics for this narrative game. And then when I started feeling oh man, I don't know if I have the energy to keep doing this, I would have just stopped. I would have just stopped for a couple of days, gathered up some energy, and then maybe dug back into it. But because it was for the jam, I felt like I had to just push through. I had to keep pushing to get it done for the deadline. If there was no deadline, I wouldn't have had that pressure, would have been a lot less stressed out. And probably, I would maybe still not be as done as I am now, but I would have, still had the motivation and maybe was still picking away at making a more interesting story with some more interesting stuff going on. I don't know. So I think the moral of the story is I am not going to participate in next month's Godot Wild Jam, no matter how tempting the theme and the wildcard seem. I'm going to take a little bit of time off of game development in general, I think. I don't think I would have needed to completely take some time off from game development if it hadn't been for this jam, but I think I'm going to spend this week just taking a breather, resting, and then next week I'll start back into making my tutorials and working on the procedural generation in Monster Revolution and maybe poking around in this game a bit and stuff. But man, I just need to rest. I just need to get my motivation back. I'm going to be playing the games that were created for this Godot Wild Jam number 24. There were a whole bunch that I was following in the Discord that looked really cool, and I'm excited to try them out. And so, I'll still be hanging out with everyone and whatnot, but I just need to take a little break, look after myself so I can come back to game dev a little stronger. And I know that's not like the most exciting story. A more exciting story would have been the staying up until, 4 a.m. and like pulling together this amazing game or whatever. But this is my hobby. This is fun, right? I gotta try and keep it fun and look after myself. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.